Oh, hey, good afternoon, and welcome back to Child Psychology, the online version. We are in week 14. Welcome to week 14, where we are discussing chapter 15, which is cognitive development in adolescence. And I hope you were enjoying the first chapter on adolescence. We had a great discussion. I think it was a wonderful topic. And what this is one of those issues. This is one of the major issues of child psychology. People get freaked out when they think about their children becoming adolescents and basically becoming adults. And so this chapter in particular is going to be important as we are struggling with that. What does that mean to become an adult? What does that mean to become an adolescent? As adolescence is sort of the transition between childhood and adulthood. So what does that mean? And so last week, we looked at that issue of the early onset and the late onset and those kinds of things. What does that mean? And particularly because this is child psychology, we're interested in how that affects the psychology of children and adolescents. One day you're, just everybody's chum, and okay, you don't know what that means. Everybody's buddy. And then the next day you have a body that other people are maybe looking at you or wanting to touch you or something like that. I'm sorry if that is offensive. But in any case, this is the thing that are children really able to handle that? And that's a big question. And so this week we're getting into cognition. Let me first mention I really enjoyed the variety, the diversity of answers on that particular research. Excuse me, discussion question from last week. Um, in particular, really, the main question was really what is the credibility of this research? I found that I enjoy this video, and because it raises that question of credibility, most of us probably would answer the question of why do we have earlier onset of puberty with the old, well, it's the hormones and the meat deal. But as a few of you pointed out, the video shows that's not necessarily true. We have to take into account some psychological issues like stress and the fact that children don't grow up with both their parents in the house, and that there are a lot of wonderful things that are not wonderful, that are not really wonderful, that are causing children to need to their bodies to become adult bodies in order to really give them the resources to make it through these stressful activities. So I just mentioned thank you again, particularly like Haley had some really good questions on the credibility of the research, um, and then some others, just to mention. Uh, Nancy pointing out how it's probably more to do with just the fact that people eat more and it's BMI and all. Rhonda, you pointed out some good things about the chemicals in the food and in our bodies and how that um, affects us. Lena, particularly, I enjoyed your what you had to say in the discussion because you shared a lot about your own experiences, and that's always a good thing, and it always shows us some good things about development. Here's the deal. Here we are in this class on child psychology, but we were all children, see, and because we were all children, we already are somewhat experts in this because we've already all gone through all these processes. So we want to understand this class, the children in this class, not just so that we can get some generalities about children, but also, but mostly because we want to understand what are the questions to ask these kids. How can we help these kids individually? And I think that's really important. So this week we're talking about cognition. This is one of those areas. Another one of these areas that seems to really frustrate people is when they have children or they have to work with children. When they hit adolescence, they go brain dead. I mean, that was the Bill Cosby thing. Boys are brain dead, and it's not that we're brain dead. In fact, we have every ability that adults have to contemplate, to solve problems, to interact, to think of great solutions. Here's the problem, though. We have the prefrontal cortex that's under construction. We have um, the limbic system that's under construction, particularly that amygdala. And so it's like having two brains. One brain that's saying, "Oh, that's not a good thing. Think this through," and the other brain that's saying, "Have at it." You know? We've all been in those situations, like you're driving and somebody cuts you off, or you're in a room and somebody's looking at you funny, or whatever. It's the adolescent that flips out. It's the adult that says, I can get through this without flipping out. And so those are the big deal. So as you read through this chapter, you can see what is really adolescent thinking. It's not that they're not thinking. It's that they're learning really how to integrate emotion, reason, and all this. There's also some good discussion in this class in this chapter on schools, and we'll continue that discussion of schools. That is not primarily what you're looking at in your discussion this week, but consider that. And here's the deal, elementary school is often held up as doing real well. Colleges are held up as doing real well. It's the middle school, it's the high school that seems to be frustrating. It's children in that age, in these adolescent years, that seem American children that lag behind a lot of other children in the world. Okay, so I hope you have a great week. Just think about all that stuff and think about adolescence and try to remember what it was like for you. And just have a great week again and take care of yourselves.